and Ty Hayes
Sports,
from
Stephen from
from
FP, aka
ATS.
Fanatic Perspective,
There we
Chris
go.
with a K from that Something Down
You
podcast,
guys know.
and Ty Hayes
Sports,
from Stephen from.
Okay, we're good. You guys hear me now?
Embarrassing.
Yeah, come on, man. Second time, somebody else got
second time.
You doing it?
You know what? Let me tell you what happened, man. It's just a quick thing here. So for some reason on Google Chrome, it won't work. My screen freezes. I can't get any service, even when I am connected through Ethernet. So I had to open this up through the Firefox. So I had it on Firefox and Google, and it screwed up. So my bad.
That's funny.
Anyways, all right, folks. Today, man, we got a jam-packed show here for an hour. Topics at hand today: NIL hearings full of nothing, basically. 2, what coaches in the SEC are on the hot seat? Number 3, future freshman QB starters in the SEC. And number 4, the best offensive coordinators in the league. We had a list that came up today, I think, from On3 Sports. So yeah, we'll dig into that. But folks, let's go ahead and dive into the first topic, the NIL hearings. And so I understand Chris with a K had a podcast yesterday where he was talking about this. So Chris, I want to let you start this off, man, and just talk about NIL.
Man, essentially what's going on is, well, Jay and Ty, we all talked about it yesterday on my pod. Look, it's the direction of NIL. Is it going to go left or is it going to go right? And yes, when I say left, and I say right, I'm talking about Republicans and Democrats, right? So pretty much the left, especially California, they want it to be pay for play. They want to unionize. They want to go all across the board and give these players more powers, more authority, and more money. They want to essentially have it to where these schools who are making double off of these players will be paying them $25,000, upwards of $25,000, and maybe even more once they graduate, right? Then as far as the right, what the right wants to do is essentially preserve the purity of the game. So what they're wanting uniformity across the board, and they're wanting all college football, every college football team, especially college football, to basically have a uniform rule where it's capped or whatever the case may be. That way there's limits on it. It doesn't really make that much sense either way. Ty did the math, and Ty was like, "There's no way. There's no way." I mean, there's like $2 million that you're basically could be paying these players. But when you look at what happened today, I didn't even watch because I figured nothing was going to happen. This was pretty much a town hall, open forum for everybody to go and express their thoughts about NIL. NIL is not the worst thing. However, the problem is it starts at the top. The NCAA made a knee-jerk reaction to Justice Kavanaugh's opinion decision or whatever you want to call it. Then they, after that, they made another knee-jerk reaction just trying to get ahead of the legislation that was going on in different states. All the states have enacted this legislation, but the thing about it is, and Jay knows this, as I've told him plenty of times, Oklahoma has a 30-page law about NIL. Connecticut or Alabama may only have 4 pages in there, but it all says the same thing. They basically define what a student athlete is all the way down the line, and then they tell you what NIL is and what the players can do. There's some tweaks to it, and there's some things that are going to change, obviously, because these are hybrid laws. But the thing about it is today, nothing happened yet again, except for people expressing their thoughts about it. And essentially the NCAA trying to open this up so the right can come in and tell everybody, hey, there needs to be uniformity and one standard rule that applies to everybody.
But Chris, what's that rule? So what's the rule? That's the only thing that I don't get. How can you regulate somebody's name, image, and likeness? I mean, it's how popular are you? Right? How much money?
It's all about endorsements, right?
Yeah, it's I don't think there's going to be any fairness in this. This is a tough lesson that kids are going to have to learn. Right? Is life ain't fair. Bryce Young made $1 million last year. Guess what? Number 85 on the team. You're not Bryce Young. All right? Be lucky that you got a free scholarship.
Yeah,
Right?
I mean, we talked about that, and I'll let you go. I'll let you go, Jay. But we talked about that. Ty, what did we say yesterday? The average NIL deal is coming from the local market. It's not coming from a national standard.
Mhm.
You're not like B. John Robinson getting these honey mustard deals or whatever the case may be. You're most likely getting some type of deal from a dealership. You're most likely getting some type of deal
Whole
from
hog,
the barbecue
our
joint.
offensive
Yeah, the
line.
barbecue joint down the street, like Ty said. So your average NIL deal is not bringing home a lot of money unless honestly you're doing appearance and signing deals, with people. Hell, I did one for a player that's going pro now, and hell, it was five grand for that. But then I've helped with others where it's $2 grand for the appearance or whatnot. And so it's not like, now don't get me wrong, everybody would love to have a couple of extra grand in their pocket, but it's not like some of these deals that these players are getting is earth shattering. So
Yeah. Let me tee off real quick, and so I got 2 points really, because we've talked about this ad nauseum, and we're gonna be able to talk about this for a while because they're still trying to figure this out. But it's more so my pistivity I have, the level of pistivity I have with the NCAA, their laziness, and their incompetence around this. I mentioned this on Chris's pod over at the Horns Down, and this is the thing that jumps out to me the most: the fact that the NCAA was able to bring our Supreme Court together, and all 9 of them said that you guys are wrong, should tell you just how wrong the NCAA really is. They got them, and regardless of where you lean politically, the SCOTUS goes one direction or the other, depending on what year it is. They never come with a 9-0 decision, ever. And we got a 9-0 on this. And they're just like, and when Justice Kavanaugh said this, and when he said that everything you're doing would be illegal if it was any other industry, that told me just right there, NCAA, you're incompetent. You should have figured this out a long time ago. You should have made this deal. And the biggest argument they had in this hearing is more so the grievance that they filed was, we don't want them to be employees because then it really hurts the sanctity of the game. I'm sorry, you're bringing in billions. Now, is the pot going to be smaller because of so many schools? Yeah, I think that's okay. That also is going to lead to these coaches losing money. And I think that's where the biggest problem comes in, is when the administration and the coaches start losing money, when they have to cut back on their salaries because the pot gets smaller, that's when everybody's losing their minds. The second thing that I'm thinking about with all of this is long-term looking at it. How long can the NCAA fight back on an antitrust lawsuit? How much longer do they have? Because once the justices all gave that 9-0, they're open for it. The game is open, and no matter what either political side tries within Congress to try to make something in place, there's going to be lawsuits that's going to go down. Either if they unionize, there's going to be some lawsuits that's going to come down. If they don't unionize and try to make a salary cap or try to put full regulation and restrictions on what these players can do, there's going to be lawsuits. So if we're a capitalistic country, we're all about the free market, why are we restricting the free market? I think the biggest argument for the NCAA around not making them employee status is really where they're focused on trying to get Congress to step in. They just don't want to deal with that. And to be honest, with as much money as these players are bringing in, I don't see why not. Pay them a little money here. Should be good. Just people don't like sharing money. That's all it is.
But this is my only thing on that with the employee situation. If it's NIL and they're getting paid by outside factions, then they're technically not an employee because the school's not paying them, right? So
yeah,
so it's like the big problem is, this is just my opinion. It's Nick Battle's opinion, not anybody else's opinion here on this show. This is just me talking. I'm gonna get really real on this. The NFL, this is more geared towards NFL and NBA, the two sports that bring in the most money for any of these schools. Okay. There is no minor league for NFL. It's not a minor league. Now, if I played baseball and I wanted to make money immediately after high school, I can go to the minor leagues and get paid 6 figures and do well. Right. I've seen people make careers out of playing in minor league ball.
Yeah.
I have a friend now who played 13 years minor league. He's a host on a show right now. I mean, he did that for his career, make really good money, and is able to settle down and buy a house in Austin and everything in this market, right? He's had a really good career. There's a minor league for hockey has a minor league, right? You can go straight out of high school to go play hockey. Football, there is no minor league. So these kids are strapped to coming to go play college football. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm not saying it's a bad thing at all. However, they are strapped to go play college football and not have an opportunity to capitalize on about 4 years of money that a kid that plays baseball can go get paid. Even basketball, you don't got to go play in the league. You can go to the G League or go overseas and play prior to going to the draft, so you can make money. And football, where all the money comes in from college, these kids have no opportunity to make any money straight out of high school. They got to wait 3 years, and so, I'm with them. I'm going to always be on the side of the player. We've all seen what these players have to go through when they're in college. We all understand what it means for them to get to college. It's a level of effort, work. Chris was a college athlete. He understands, just the level of dedication it takes. And so now it's time to step up for the player and let these guys get compensated.
Yeah. One thing, F is for Fanatics. One of the things I'm talking about, like currently you can have NIL contracts. You can't have an NIL contract with the stipulation that's performance based, i.e. throw 35 touchdowns and you get X amount of dollars, which is where I pose the question. I wonder the legality of a anti-transfer clause in an NIL agreement. Yeah, contracts are contracts. They can be an I-9. You can absolutely police stipulations within contracts because it's absolutely currently happening. I mean, that's just kind of the current state of NIL right now, which is why I asked. I don't know that it is illegal, but I just think that there would be something that comes up and they're like, oh, you couldn't do that. Look, the thing that
Ty, what would be the difference between that and a coach leaving a school for another school in terms of the legalities as well, in terms of the difference between a coach leaving a school and a kid transferring to another school?
Yeah, I mean, then you have more onus on the coach because think of all the actual like multiple binding agreements he has to that said institution, right? I mean, so like, yeah, I mean, but that's a whole other can of worms, right? Like it gets pretty deep when we get to that point. But the thing I think is so interesting in this is like Chris kicked it off saying like, one party wants this, the other party wants this. Really, they both want the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
They're just going about it in two different ways, right? Like it's basically saying, hey, you need a truck and there's a Toyota Tundra and a Ford F-150. Well, they're both trucks, right? And if at the end of the day, all you need is a truck, that's basically what we're getting here. It's just two different methods to get to the same thing. The thing that kills me, though, is that the root of the problem is the NCAA. It continues to be the NCAA. We talked about this yesterday. The NCAA sat on, excuse my French, they sat on their ass for so long, they didn't want to do anything until the Supreme Court said something. And the Supreme Court, I've said this before, they were not there to talk about NIL in the grand scheme of things. They were not there in NCAA versus Alston to talk about the legality of the antitrust structure of the NCAA. Justice Kavanaugh came out of left field and was like, hey, your whole structure is illegal. And it would not pass judicial scrutiny. It would not pass review. You cannot have a system where you base your whole theory off of not paying people for the sake of not paying people. That's one quote that always stuck with me about this. And all of a sudden, I've always talked about this. 10 days later, all of a sudden, NIL comes out. But wouldn't you know it, there's no thought behind NIL. For instance, Texas A&M instantly hit the ground running with collectives. Right. Well, then people wonder, well, why didn't states like Florida? Why didn't they instantly have a collective? Well, it's because the Florida legislation passed laws that were restrictive to their NIL capabilities. They couldn't mobilize in the same manner Texas could. Alabama could not mobilize in the same manner Texas could because the local state legislation had passed restrictive laws. That's not Texas's fault. That's not anybody's fault. That's the NCAA's fault for not putting something out there that was on equal footing. And the thing that kills me before I pass this off, everybody wants to clamor about parity, right? And everybody's like, oh, well, we need to get parity. And look, I agree. I think we should always be looking for some form of parity in sports in general, right? I don't think that we should police sports, but parity is in no doubt good. But if we want parity so bad, it's very simple. Create a uniform NIL rule. It is so simple. Just give a bright line. What is legal? What is illegal? And we're good to go. The NCAA could have done this all. And the crazy thing is it took the government to step in for them to get NIL. And now, because of the NCAA's incompetence, we're right back at the government level. Yeah. It's just ridiculous to me.
Quick question. I got a quick question for y'all on this. And I've seen this in the comments, and like Episode Fanatics mentioning I-9 employee. These students aren't employees.
Exactly.
And the whole thing around NIL is that you're not allowed to tie it to a school, technically. Even though, in theory, most of your deals will come from local places because you're playing at the local school, which is why most of them are, 1-year deals. So I asked this question. If we decide to try to put restrictions on NIL deals, will they have to eventually get to the point of labeling these students as employees, which is the opposite of what they wants? Hey, does that feel like we're driving that direction?
That's what it is. Crazy? That's what it is. They don't want to make them employees, but are acting like they want them to be employees. Right? Is NIL this name, image, and likeness? For instance, everybody understands that my wife's from Alabama. She's from Greene County, right down the street from Tuscaloosa, 45 minutes away. Right? I have 2 nieces that graduated from Alabama. I remember going to go see my niece graduate from school. I go into their local shop, and they have Hawaiian themed everything. Now, I'm in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and the whole athletic shop is Hawaiian themed because the said quarterback at the time was Tua, who is Hawaiian descent, and they had literally the, what do you call the things, man? The
leis.
Yeah, the leis. Yeah. They had the Hawaiian themed shirts, the Hawaiian themed bracelets. Everything in that store was geared towards Hawaiian culture, right? So it's like, you got to be freaking kidding me. This is why NIL needs to be, implemented, because you're making money off this guy. There's no way in hell anybody in Tuscaloosa, Alabama is wearing anything Hawaiian if Tua wasn't there.
You want to know why NIL needs to be a thing? I'm going to be very honest.
What's that?
And selfishly speaking, damn it, I'm not tired of not having an NCAA video game.
Yeah, that's true.
Guys, we could solve so much of this with the EA deal. So much of this could be solved once the EA deal comes in. I'm sorry, Steven. I feel like I jumped right in front of you.
We waiting on to hear from you, Steven. What's up, man?
Steven.
No, you guys are hitting it on the head. I agree with Ty about the NCAA aspect. I mean, I grew up playing NCAA football. It's a big reason why I'm a college football fan. It's a big reason why I was able to grow and fall in love from an educational standpoint with so many of the other teams and building up different programs and being exposed to stadiums and different players. It's the same type of exposure you get from Madden, and especially with video game culture as it is today. We're talking about what it was 20 years ago. Look how many people are still on NCAA 14 servers, right? Like till today. Still people out here like us.
I got 14.
Still producing.
I got 14.
I mean, come on. Yeah. I forgot who I was talking to about this, but whenever the game comes, we're definitely starting a spinoff channel for NCAA football. Like,
I'll be Twitch streaming.
I told Ty already I was going to destroy him every time that I get a chance.
I'll tell you what you should do is just sim the games and play them sim and just broadcast them the whole time.
You don't want this smoke.
I want both of watch them two play. My money is in on whichever team I want it.
It gets dangerous around here. Gets dangerous. All right. I put players out there on the field. All right. Speed D on. Hey, it's a lot of speed around the field. I'm telling you.
I hope you run that Alex Grinch defense against me. I pray to God you run that.
Like I told you. I pray. They call me. Hey. Rest in peace, but they call me the Black Mike Leach. You do not want to see me on those sticks, bro.
Jansen, you
Wow.
don't even know what the.
So you're gonna play no defense?
I'm just letting you know.
So I'm gonna play cover 4 the whole time. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
Sorry,
hey guys,
dude.
but honestly, Steven, go ahead, Steven.
I actually had a point about that on a serious note. I do wonder, and this is real quick, what the longevity is of the NCAA as a governing body, period. And
Yeah.
I've thought about this for a good while. Seriously, because of at every turn, it's bumpier and bumpier as change comes along. I mean, I've always talked about the 4 big change agents in college football: name, image, likeness, super conferences, just the playoff situation and everything that comes with that. And there was one other one that I'm losing off the top of my head, but with all of those things under the NCAA's guidance, they struggle at every single turn. They really, really do. And with this in particular, and the legalities behind it, and the federal government saying, hey, this isn't even, this structure, and then rolling out an NIL almost ad hoc, if you will, like this is the nature of business that these people have always run like. But now with I mean, it's nothing new with the NCAA. They've always been a mess. They've always been a crappy governing body. The transfer portal was the 4th big change agent, by the way. I don't know why that's my mind.
That's true.
It was the transfer portal. But that included, right? Like they fumble the ball every single time. Every single time.
Yeah.
So it's no surprise that we're having more about nothing with NIL. And the Sharks will continue to eat until somebody else steps in and is the adult in the room, in place of the NCAA, in my opinion.
I was just going to jump in because I want to piggyback off of everything that you guys said. So, during my college years or the latter part of my undergrad years, I did journalism. So J school, J student. So I wrote an opinion article. I did a series just about athletes, about how college athletes actually feel. I mean, I'll send y'all some samples, but there was one opinion article that I wrote that was honestly near and dear to my heart because I thought it was true and I felt that it was true. Going from the JUCO, just going to school, I was cool with a lot of the athletes on campus. And I mean, you see the struggles of everybody. You see the struggles of a lot of your teammates or whatnot. A lot of times you coming back with McDonald's, everybody else is like, man, you still got them noodles over there, right? So anyways, I wrote an article and basically I called it what it was. I said, hey, look, the NCAA model right now, not paying players for what they're doing and all the money and the revenue that they're generating for your university. This is modern day prostitution because a coach can recruit a kid, but he also can recruit over a kid. If you are not producing on the court or on the field or in the classroom, they can get rid of you. Your scholarship is not guaranteed for a full 4 years, 2 years, or however long. You have to go back and have those exit meetings and whatever, figure out if they want you to even come back.
Exactly.
And so when they have that much autonomy over their program and they can just jump and leave or whatnot, before NIL, it was modern day prostitution. So now what it's dwindled down to is just a control game. And it's been a thing about control. So that is what the NCAA is begging and screaming for the NCAA, for the government, for Congress now to step in and bring intervention because they need help to control this, to clench on to the last part of control that they have over the situation. And the thing about it is that it just doesn't look like it's going to happen. And I challenge everybody on here and everybody in the comments, man, go look at that California statute. California is the reason this is happening. Mm-hmm. Because what California is doing is basically posing a law that, if passed, will be copycatted by everybody. Every state that is going to have some type of NIL deal or collective, there will be copycat legislation passed, and it will open the floodgates for a lot of questions, problems, etc., etc.
A quick question real fast, Chris. That California law, do you remember off the top of your head, was it only to scholarship players that NIL would go to?
I don't believe it says scholarship players.
It's got to be just players. Just look at a guy like Bronny James or something. You know, if he goes to school, let's say at USC, you think he's going to take a scholarship from the school? He's probably going to not be on scholarship so that the team can go get somebody else because he can front his own way. You know, same thing with like Master P's kid did the same thing. You know, so
Romeo, yeah.
We're just going to assume.
This is what it said. This is what it says verbatim. It says the bill would require state schools to share a percentage of revenue with athletes and programs that bring in double what they spend on athletic scholarships, meaning it would most likely impact only football and men's and women's basketball. Pay would be capped at $25,000 per academic year, with more to be dispersed after completing a degree.
I don't like it.
Here's the thing. Let me jump in here real quick.
Go ahead.
We're going to assume it's 85, right? Because from what I looked up, there's 85 scholarship players on a team. They can then fluctuate anywhere they want up to 105, I believe. Yep. So just for the sake of cleanliness, 85.
85.
That's how much money they'd be paying a year with the 25,000.
What's that? 2.125 million?
Yep.
That's nothing. That's a drop in the bucket. So look here, man. NIL, this is what people are mad at. They're mad at these boys about to get paid now. It is what it is. These boosters are about to legally start paying these guys, and they are afraid that there's going to be a power shift, that these kids they have more money than some of the coaches on that staff. They're going to make more money at this school than anybody in any administration of that school. When you're starting quarterback and possibly his backup, like at Texas or like at Bama, both of those guys, maybe even the top three, are going to make more money than the AD at that school, right? So this is the thing. Boosters are pissed about – well, I don't say boosters. Boosters don't care because they just want the best talent. The common fan does not want to see these players get paid, but they have no problem with a booster, like, for instance, at Alabama. When Nick Saban was threatening to leave for that time, they paid off his house to the tune of $1.8 million. No problem with that. No problem with paying off Saban's house. But God forbid you go give that football player $100,000.
Nino, that's what college football is all about, baby. We contradict ourselves. That's literally college football, man.
No,
I mean, look at Neo's comment here saying there have to be regulations, otherwise chaos will reign. We're talking about the NCAA here, man. Like, this is the most corrupt organization outside of FIFA.
I was going to say, yeah.
or the what's that? The International Committee for the Olympics or whatever.
The IOC.
It's those three. So, okay, my last point on this, and we've already gone about 30 minutes. Yeah, so I figured we would end up going very long on this and not really get to all our topics. But one thing, though, this is the only thing that bothers me. You know, you hit it right on the head. It bothers me that fans have issues with these kids getting this money. Guys, we got to think about this. Boosters are willing to give people money without actually getting real benefit from it. Like, it's a transaction of giving money, and the only benefit is that they can say that they have met a player or been around people. They literally are jock sniffers paying for the opportunity to be around people. Why do we care what other people do with their money? The problem, like you mentioned, is people don't like the idea of the players getting the money. Yeah. Not saying everybody, but those that have issue, they have issue with the players get the money, because the biggest argument you hear is, and we talked about this, Ty and Chris, the locker room piece is, one player's going to have more money than others. There's going to be issues in the locker room. Do you think that there's problems in the locker room at Ohio State between C.J. Stroud and Marvin Harrison Jr.? Because if I remember correctly, Marvin Harrison Jr. is rich. He wears Louis Vuitton shoes. C.J. Stroud came from a single-parent household, and, they just trying to get by. But Marvin Harrison Jr. is rich, like rich. Because his daddy was in the NFL. That's not uncommon. That's everywhere. Last point. If you think parity is going to come from this, you're crazy. Because coaches, if NIL did not exist right now, we would still see the same Alabama today that we're seeing as we saw when Nick Saban got there in 2007. The difference between 07 and today, there isn't one. He just has a rotating staff on the offense and defensive side as far as coordinators go, and it happens. Yeah. But until you replace these coaches, if you want parity, and I'm going to give you the secret, make coaches have to retire after 10 years. Make it 7. Every 7 years, you have to leave a job. Oh. You will get parity. Because at that point,
that sounds
coach
awful.
Can't dominate. It's hard to dominate when the guy that's dominating is gone. It's an awful idea. It's awful. But
no. I see where you're going with it. No doubt about it. Yeah.
That's literally the only way because these kids are following coaches, man. You're going to get one or two that's going to follow money, sure. But these kids are following coaches. They're following development. They're following everything that comes down the line from being on a team. They're not really following just the money.
Yeah, exactly.
Keeping it a buck.
I'm with you. All right, guys, we gone 31 minutes on this topic. We got to go to another topic, man. This was good. We might have to have like a full episode on this one, man, sometime later. But let's go to topic number 2. Coaches on the hot seat in the SEC. Jay, I'm going to send this over to you because I think you're the one who actually posted this topic for us. Who do you think's on the hot seat, man?
Man, I'm looking around the SEC right now, and as much as I feel like it makes no sense for this to be this way, I really think that Sam Pittman over there at Arkansas is on the hot seat.
It's an interesting conversation.
I was thinking the same thing.
And I say that I feel like he's the one on the hottest seat. Now, granted, I would love to say Jimbo Fisher, but I've said this on everybody's show at least once, as well as my own. A&M is not going to come with $200 million to get rid of this dude. Because the minute they fire him and they pay him his 90-something million in buyout, Jimmy Sexton is not going to let nobody take that job for less than $100 million. And I know A&M ain't going to want to figure that out. I know it. Because nobody will be stupid enough to take that job as high profile. I'm putting quotes on it. I'm putting my little quotes with my claw hands. And how high profile A&M is. Nobody's going to take that job for less than what Jimbo made, especially with a 5-7 season. So, looking at Sam in the situation in Arkansas, man, you would think that they would just be happy with the fact that they're relevant in some capacity. He does a great job. He's got a freaking hog fountain at his house. But I feel like he's on the hot seat. I feel like that Arkansas believes they should be better than what they are. And I can see them fire him this year if he goes under 500. He was the number one person that jumped in my mind when I thought about coaches on the hot seat. Thoughts?
Jay, I was thinking about that earlier, man, when you posted that question, and I didn't want to say Sam Pittman, but it was the first thing that came to my mind too, and it's not because of what he's doing or not doing. Arkansas is one of those schools, and we talked about this a couple weeks ago. They're one of those schools that are going to be really good every 4th or 5th year. They got to be able to get the talent in and develop that talent, mature that talent, and then they're going to have a hell of a team in 4 or 5 years. But it's like they're going to be in spurts, and they're going to have down years. But it's Arkansas realizing who they are exactly. And I don't want to put unfair expectations on him because he doesn't have the recruiting bed that a Texas A&M has or a Texas or an OU has or in Alabama. I mean, they're in the SEC, but they're in the SEC West, Northwest portion of it, right? So they don't have that huge recruiting bed. Every 4th or 5th year, they're going to be good, and I think they're going to have to just give them time because they need a coach that's going to be stable there to kind of stabilize that program. That's just my opinions on it.
I look at with Sam Pittman too. He's well liked. Like there's something to be said for how your persona fits in the culture and the environment. I agree. I think Jay makes a lot of points in terms of where there's potentially friction. However, when they were like really, really healthy last year, they did get to the top 10. I mean, and he's flirted with it a couple times. I just think that he's one good complete season away from going the complete opposite direction because they're very emotional as a fan base to where they give him an extension. Like I think it could go the other way completely. If he was one of these guys out here that was like an absolute dick and just didn't fit in with the culture, I would be with you. Like that's where people start to disregard results and what's happening on the field and recruiting and all those things. But I have another hot take in terms of this question. Mine would be Billy Napier at Florida. Yes, after 1 year.
He was my second. He was my second.
I would say Billy Napier. I don't like how things are going, and they are things outside of his control. Okay. They are things outside of his control. When we start looking at, we talked about NIL earlier, and I mean, we'd be remiss if we didn't mention the whole, Rashada deal with the quarterback. And the other kid, what was his name? Marcus. The other kid that got in trouble.
Oh, Marcus Stokes.
Marcus Stokes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Like these are. It's like Lemony Snicket's a series of unfortunate events with Billy Napier. And the other thing I look at with Florida is they've had how many coaches since Urban Meyer left, right? So when you look at and it's like the longest tenured ones, maybe 3 years, 3-4 seasons. Like you're talking about like Jim McElwain and even as recently as some of the other guys that they've had back down in Gainesville. I mean, they go through them. Like Dan Mullen was really only there for what, 3 years? How many years was Dan Mullen at Florida?
3 or
Just 3.
4 tops.
He made 4?
It 3. He made it 3. Like,
but I think one of the things with Dan Mullen we have to remember, though, you can't make it in the SEC at any program by going in front of the media and vocalizing, "We don't worry about recruiting until the season is done." I don't care if you're in season 2; they have grounds to fire you. That one, in fairness, isn't on. That one, in fairness, that's not on Florida.
I thought that was coach talk, but Ty has really, really shown me the error of my ways. Because Ty is like that. That's a serious issue.
3.5 years. Dan Mullins
that's crazy. That's crazy.
That's not on Florida. They were well within their. You can't be against Georgia and Nick Saban, where guys, the NCAA has had to instate rules for Urban Meyer and Nick Saban because they would not get off the recruiting trail, and other coaches were like, "Shit, I want to go on vacation," and they're like, "Forget a vacation. This is vacation."
Players. Yeah.
So they had to. Yeah, you can't be in the league against those cats and be like, I'll worry in the offseason. Buddy, in the offseason, IMG is picked clean.
Yeah.
They're done.
You know what's funny? Mullen was great for Mississippi State. He's in Mississippi State, right? He was
oh my God. Dak Prescott, baby.
Yeah. So he was great at Mississippi State. That was the perfect job for him because he didn't have to go out and recruit all year round because he knew that he's going to get the leftovers regardless, right? So he's just going to go pick up a few 4-stars that didn't get picked up from Bama or Florida or Tennessee or Georgia. And then he can go pick up some really good players and not have to work too hard to go get them because they want to stay in the SEC.
That dude got Mississippi State to the Orange Bowl with Dak Prescott, which always baffles me when it comes to the NFL draft, how Dak fell as far as he did. It's like, wait, did you not see him at Mississippi State? He had them like number 2 in the nation, and he was Orange Bowl
in college.
Like you can't deny that. That's talent. But yeah, not recruiting is an issue.
He also had a DUI thing in that fight that happened.
Yeah, I mean, but if that's the case, then Baker shouldn't have been picked high.
After the Arkansas situation, Fayetteville, that is very much true.
Hold on, folks. Let me butt in here.
I wanted to finish one point with Billy Napier, though.
Yeah.
I just think that with bad omens and things, we saw firsthand with Charlie Strong, and like when things start happening all over the place, I think Billy's a good coach. This isn't me saying that Billy's a bad coach. I just want to make that clear, Nino. Like, I think the circumstances are not favorable to his success, and knowing that Florida will make a decision. I mean, to Ty's point, Dan Mullen, yes, that statement was a fireable response about recruiting, but that was 1 year off of being in the SEC championship game with Kadarius Toney and Kyle Pitts and all those guys. That was like there was like no time removed from that. Yeah. So we got to consider those things. But I'll pass it to you, Nino.
Yeah, you know what? I just wanted to give a shout out to SBC Bates over here for the $1.99 and the those horns downs down there. However, it's always horns up over here on my side. SBC Bates. So now I can get you off the screen with those horns down. We can go to another.
Appreciate the donation, SBC.
Appreciate that. Thanks, man. That's the first donation that we've gotten here in the channel. Thanks, buddy.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. All right.
Can we put the Corvette with no wheels comment up there? This is.
I made this exact comment a year ago about Texas. Whenever people were like, "Oh, they need to get rid of Sark," and I was like, "Sark got left a Ferrari with Walmart tires."
That was my analogy. You stole that from me, Ty. I went on your show and said it. I remember I said it's like a Lamborghini with no tire, with a Walmart tires on it. Everybody cracked up on that one, but it was what it was, man. We had a bunch of damn skill position players and no offensive linemen.
No trenches. But no, I'm as far, but outside of the rest of the conversations and everything with Napier and Pittman were the two that really jumped out to me as far as being on the hot seat. Unfortunately, like I don't think Billy Napier should be on the hot seat, but like you mentioned, Nick, it's really a lot of stuff outside of his control, and I just think that their collectives and everything going on with Florida on the back end side, it's looking really bad. It's like it's almost as toxic as Auburn's like booster situation, and we all know how bad that is. Like that is a really bad situation, just in general. I mean, you find a way to lie about your coach, try to find a way to fire him at call so you don't have to pay him, and it's like, y'all got problems.
And then the most beautiful thing is they launched a coup against their old coach and then hired a coach that has been proven to do the exact thing they launched a coup against the old guy for. So obviously it wasn't that big of a deal. You should have just came out and say, "Hey, buddy, we don't think you can coach." That had just been like cutting to the issue here.
Yeah,
just pay the buyout. Just pay the buyout.
I'm gonna step in real quick and give my name before you go, because I do want to just give a quick response to both. On the Pittman comment, that's interesting. I don't think this is the year he's on the hot seat, but here's where I think that's interesting. Arkansas, to Nino's point, has been hot, cold, hot, cold, hot, cold. But the problem is there's been lingering things that it can't be that way, right? For instance, this past year, Arkansas State had a better defense than Arkansas. I mean, that Arkansas secondary was tragic, and part of that is because of injury. Let's be very honest here. It's not, I'm not saying that it's like, oh, bad coaching. I think Pittman's a great coach. I really root for Pittman at Arkansas, and I was actually on record talking to both Chris and Jay, especially you, Chris, and you'll remember this. I told you I thought Arkansas was going to be a team to watch in the SEC. And you told me you didn't think there was any way in hell. We fought, and I was wrong as could be on that. They really struggled this year. Kudos to you. Yeah, no doubt. On Napier, I just think that one of the things that's going to really help Napier is, I think, Duck's comment, but two, they have a guy right down the street in Mario Cristobal who took a roster that had a quarterback that everybody in college football was so excited for. And my goodness gracious, though. I mean, that was tough to watch in Miami. Mm-hmm. And Cristobal's got that experience, and they had 5 wins, 5-7, I believe, is what Miami went. So I think that helps Napier. And I also think the way he's going about this, but Steven, it is so interesting you talk about it, man. The Jaden Rashada deal, right? I've talked to High Top. I've talked to F is for Fanatics, both podcasts, awesome Florida content. If y'all haven't checked it out, please go check it out. Both of those guys are unbelievable. I'd love to get either of them on this. But they were telling me there was a lot that went on to it, and especially High Top. He's very involved with the NIL. And one of the comments I had said to him, I was like, look, I have no doubt that there's a lot of intricacies that went into this, that it would completely make sense if it came to light. The problem is the court of public opinion is a very powerful thing. Exactly. And now when everybody thinks of an NIL deal going wrong, they think of one name and one institution. That's problematic. Whether it was their fault or not, the court of public opinion is a very, very powerful thing.
Mm-hmm.
The name I'm going to give you, though, and once again, I don't think he's on the hot seat. But if A&M does this tomfoolery one more year, I don't know. They are paying him Jimbo and Nick Saban money in terms of results, and they are not getting they're not getting Nick Saban and Kirby results for the money they're paying him. Now, Jay, here's where I agree with you. They've shot themselves in the foot because what do we see in the NFL? A quarterback signs a contract and he sets the market.
Mm-hmm.
When they gave Jimbo Fisher that contract, they effectively set the market. I don't know what they're thinking, but look, and it's not just on field. At a certain point, there's a lot of things that could go right for A&M this year. I like a lot of their pieces. Evan Stewart is a monster. Ruben Owens, I think, is going to be phenomenal. Hicks is unbelievable. Yeah, no doubt. So, but I just think Jimbo Fisher is a name to watch, but I don't believe he's on the hot seat. I think there's been a lot of comments pointing to there might not be a just quasi hot seat guy this year in the SEC, and I think that might be true. But I will say one more year like they just had, I don't know how he's not on the hot seat if they have one more year like they just had.
It's going to be interesting. It's the money.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Is A&M going to be willing to put that on paper to pay that buyout for him and all his coaches? Are they going to be willing to do that?
If I make it, I'm getting Jimmy Sexton as my agent.
Yep, speed dialing him immediately, expeditiously.
Immediately. All right, so talking about A&M, folks, I think everybody.
Hold on. I want to hear Chris's. I want to hear Chris's.
Chris, I'm sorry, Chris. I'm sorry, Chris.
You good, bro? I think y'all are completely crazy about Billy and Pittman. I think Pittman is going to be fine at Arkansas simply because one thing that he has under his on his belt is the fact that he has helped them have a resurgence. And the fact of the matter is that he played without some key parts that he didn't have when he was having a lot of success there. Wide receiver is one position. Defensively, look, their offense was stagnant last year. And I think OU fans and Texas fans alike could say, I can't wait for Browse to get there with TCU because we saw what his offense is like. It's really stagnant. And I just feel like Pittman's okay. I feel like he's going to have the morale and all the rest of that stuff and the juices flowing early in the season. We just have to see. It all really depends on KJ Jefferson. Just like I talked about Quinn Ewers and a few quarterbacks of note. Look, KJ Jefferson is going to have to put that team on his back and win some games himself. It's not just going to be we go out here and we do this and we're going to help you out. No, he's got to go put the team on his back. With Billy down there in Florida, I think that you got to give him this year and say last year was a mulligan and say, hey, look, I think you're going to be better. We've seen him do more with less. The only question that I have about him is how the hell did you make it this far thinking, oh, yeah, I got Graham Mertz and Jack Miller as quarterback and think that you're going to be successful with that. So that's my only knock on him right now. But if I said a guy on a hot seat, I'm not sure if he's gotten a contract extension or not. But, I think, looking at all of the SEC teams, I would go Missouri. Because
I was going to say Drinkowitz, but he just got there in 2020 as well.
Yeah. And they just gave him an extension.
I thought he did get an extension.
Yeah.
They did. They gave him a 2-year extension, so he's extended to 2027, mainly because he looked halfway competent, hitting close to 50%.
They closed on Luther Burden as well, which was a big recruiting win for Missouri.
That was huge.
Here too, Chris, of students being in Kentucky for life. We gotta in the SEC. We gotta scale these schools of expectations, right? Because some of these schools are like that's why Lane Kiffin's literally in the perfect situation.
Yeah,
let's be honest.
Pete Golden as well.
Yeah. Ole Miss is never gonna need to actually go for a championship. These guys just stay relevant. 10-win seasons here and there.
Stay relevant. Be fun. Start.
I think Kentucky's the same way. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I think Arkansas should be that way, but they won't be. Just as Nick mentioned, they have a up and down. Like their biggest problem was the Chad Morris years where they went 2-10 for 2 years straight.
Yeah, it was something else.
But they're up and down. So
Yeah,
why
you
not
can't lose
enjoy
to
that?
North Texas at home. That's too far down, brother. But
It's true. But I think the problem too is when it comes to Arkansas is
I don't even know if administration knew they had a game that day. There. I really think the UNT president woke up and said, "Oh shit, we won a football game. Would you look at that? All right, on to the theater."
Nah, you know what the problem is? The fans of Arkansas,
They're
they
great.
remember the days of when Arkansas was dominant, right? I mean, they were dominant for a while, right? And so they still kind of, are like holding on to those days. Those 7-year-old kids that are now 67 and 70 years old that are still going to the game and buying season passes. They still, kind of remember those days. And I think that's the problem with Arkansas. Themselves
they acting like they Nebraska though. They don't even
80s.
Nebraska.
80s is literal. Well, I'm sorry, the 60s to the.
I understand hanging
70s.
on, bro, but
They had
like,
like 6 10-win seasons.
you're not even Nebraska. Like they have a
weren't.
right to feel some type of way.
They don't. They don't. They don't.
That's out of line.
Look,
it's
I
true.
want to jump in here because everybody's trying to get on me saying, "Oh, Levy and Browse run the same offense." Look, I get that, but I feel like there's different concepts. Shut up, Stephen, before I go in on you. Trust me, I tell you my opinion for you.
Don't y'all.
Second off, look. Here's my thing. I still think that you put your own spin on that. I think that you have your own spin, and I think Levy's in a better position. Levy's going to have better talent to run the system or whatnot. And so with Levy is more, in my mind, he's more, I'm a play. I have my plays that I want to run, but if I'm killing you with one, I'm going to continue to do that. Browse is kind of all over the place. And especially with KJ Jefferson, as inconsistent as he was last year, I don't know if I saw the same offense out there because they had to do a lot of different things to really win games, especially late down the stretch, in my opinion. That's just me, though.
I didn't like I said they just didn't have what they had previous years.
Yeah,
in terms of
exactly.
receiving talent. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's the only problem too with Arkansas is they don't have the depth that the other teams have, and so when they do lose like some key pieces, it really stands out for them.
And they lost some key pieces this year. I think on defense, both middle linebackers, Drew Sanders, Bumper Pool, gone.
Yeah.
Catalon. And look, I don't mean this as a shot. Texas or Arkansas is not going to really miss Catalon just because he was injured all last season, so he wasn't there.
Yeah.
Right.
And he was
last
season before.
But when he's healthy, I mean, that might be, and I've said this to you, Nino, that might be the pickup of the transfer portal. If he can remain healthy, that guy is unbelievable. But like for Arkansas, they've lost a lot. There's some question marks for the Razorbacks.
Exactly.
Yeah, they have some players hop in that portal, so that does make you pick you up. But
Chris, who's your guy on the hot seat? I know you said Missouri, but I think
that's
leaning into someone else.
I mean, for me, I think that may be, but like Steven said, I mean, it's kind of got to temper expectations. I mean, I really don't know because looking across the thing across the SEC, it just doesn't really look like there's really that coach out there that's really on the hot seat, in my opinion.
It's a pretty field.
It's too early to tell about some of them. I mean, I get the points that you guys made about Pittman, Billy, but hell, I mean, you could probably make that for some other coaches. Hell, I mean, I know given the situation, but hell, could we say that Mississippi State may be in looking in the next year or two or so for a coach if the Arnett kid, a guy doesn't really work out. So I mean,
yes, they could.
Yeah.
If it turns into a disaster,
God, I hope that works out.
I mean, because he's auditioning for the job. I mean, I'm just being real. He's auditioning for the job.
I do too. I like him as a coach. I liked him as a defensive coordinator. I thought he was really good. And I like the OC that he brought in, from Central Michigan. I like what he did there. It's just a matter of can they get the players to run that offense in that system. That's going to be huge for them.
Jance, I'm not sure Vanderbilt still footballs.
Or Chance.
I mean, Vanderbilt has a tendency of getting 6 wins in a season here or there, so they'll go to a bowl game. But their coach is always on the hot seat. Like that's not even a question. They live on the hot seat.
Yeah,
head coach could appear right now. I wouldn't even know what the guy looks like. If you asked me
Chris Lee. I went and looked him up, bro. I was like, who is the coach? Clark Lay. See,
Clark Lay.
I called him Chris, and I don't even know why.
I was going to say it was Jerry Stackhouse, but he's the men's basketball.
Fair point. Touche. I thought he named Brown on football. Let's move on.
On that note, let's go to topic number 3.
No disrespect, Vanderbilt. I love Nashville. No disrespect.
No disrespect, Vandy.
One of my favorite cities.
I got a funny story about Vandy.
I'll never forget when they had that year where they were about to play Alabama and the offensive lineman got on TV in front of the nation and God himself and said, "We're about to go into Alabama and teach them how to play football." Okay. Okay.
Hell no. All right. Topic number 3, folks. Future freshman QB starters here for the SEC. I think Steven brought this one up. So, Steven, are we talking about true freshmen, redshirt freshmen? What are you thinking?
That was me.
Oh, yeah. That was you.
I was like, I didn't.
That was me again. I threw out most of the topics that we have on the agenda today. But
y'all know me. I'm just one of those guys. I just show up and we just whatever kind of happens once we're on here. That's where
you just
I
roll
go.
the ball out for Ty. That's basically all it is. Roll the ball out. We're gonna ball.
Hey guys, first off, everybody who's listening to this, none of this is scripted. We put topics together, folks, and we just talk ball, man. So this is like barbershop feel. Have fun with it. Let's just talk. So yeah, so freshman QBs, man. Jay.
So I'm thinking. So my thought behind this was, as I was looking at when I was talking to Ty and Chris not too long ago, we were talking about like Tennessee has the situation with Nico coming in, and then you got Joe Milton at quarterback, and then we've been hearing the quote unquote reports. I don't know how true any. I think none of it's true, but the speculation with fans, they want to have that, is the Texas deal with Arch Manning coming in with Quinn Ewers, and will Arch take his job immediately? And then you look at Georgia, we're trying to figure out who their quarterback's going to be. I think it's going to be Beck, but I actually just looked at Heisman odds, and they have Brock Vandegrift in there on the list, and I'm trying to figure out what the bleep is that. But anyway, I'm curious to see if any of you think any freshman could potentially take someone's job in the SEC. I think the one that probably has the best chance is Nico at Tennessee, but I don't see it happening. I just think that Joe has enough to be able to keep that engine churning forward. So that's open forum conversation, probably quick. We'll probably go to the OCs right afterwards, but I was curious to y'all's thoughts on these freshmen and if any of them can take a job.
Steven.
Yeah, real quick. I don't think it's a question of if Nico wins the job to start the season. I expect Joe Milton to be the starter. I think it's a question of, is Joe Milton the starter at the end of the season?
Fair point.
Right? Or like, I think some of these things is how much rope are you getting? Or injury. We've seen stuff before, like Trevor Lawrence, in the situation with him at Clemson when he got to take over, right? And so I could see something like that with Nico, where maybe a month or 2 months into the season before he gets to step in there for that job. The Georgia thing is interesting because Beck has kind of been that guy that they've had at that 2-hole for a while behind Stetson. But we know what type of recruit Brock Vandegrift was. We know what type of recruit Gunnar Stockton was. And like those guys, like how, especially with a new offense. I mean, Mike Bobo's taking over, right? So now that Monken's off to the Baltimore Ravens, is a change of eyesight, they're seemingly going to keep that scheme and whatnot in place. But we know how certain coaches like certain guys or acquiesce to certain skill sets or traits. So I think that could be something to look at as well over at Georgia.
I'm just gonna jump here and say, Ty, get your boy. If Jance keeps coming after me, I'm gonna drop a bomb on him. All right. I got some bombshells for him. I'm just letting y'all know. If Jance keep coming for me, I got something for him. All right.
Get him, Jance.
Just letting y'all know. Hey, look, I'm gonna jump in here and say this right here. Okay. Outside of the Tennessee kid, I don't know. I really don't see, too much. I mean, I think you have some some experienced guys coming back. I think probably probably the better question would be who's going to win some of these quarterback battles out there. Like I said, Florida with Graham Mertz and Jack Miller. There's some quarterback battles that need to be won or for sure. So I'm just not really sure. Well, Jens did say Ty Simpson,
redshirt freshman.
Yeah,
it's a redshirt freshman. I was going to get into that too with the redshirt freshman side of the house.
I don't know. I think outside of those two teams, I don't know, but I don't see Ty Simpson starting though.
I have a question for Ty actually.
Yes, sir.
With the Ty Simpson, Jalen Milroe thing, I feel like they're so different, at least from the outside looking in. There's such different types of quarterbacks. Is there room in Nick Saban's world where you could see a two quarterback type system? Because I don't know if you would ever want to keep Jalen Milroe's feet on the bench. I mean, he's a crazy athlete.
Yeah.
Even if Ty Simpson's your guy.
I don't know, man. I just don't know that Saban just doesn't strike me as a two quarterback system, but I'm not Saban. So he could very well do it because Jalen Milroe is an unbelievable athlete. And look, one of the things I've said is there are moments last year where I can point to you to some film where Milroe's making some good plays, some really good throws. The problem almost seemed like once it was outside the script, that's when things went awry. But that right there kind of bleeds into one of my biggest complaints, which was the offensive coordinator, right? I just thought that when Milroe came in, it almost looked like the same offense Bryce was running. And I don't think you should ask Milroe to run Bryce's offense because Bryce has to do so much. That's a conversation for a different day. Mm-hmm. The interesting thing with this, Steven, is they're different, but Milroe is mobile, right? He's got a cannon. He's mobile. Ty Simpson has got escapability. He's more mobile than people, I think, realize. But he's what I would say. He's got really nice escapability. And he can really throw on the run. And when you break down Tommy Rees's offense, where it gets even more amusing and frustrating, both of them have a home within that offense. Like both of them logically could make sense in that offense. I have no idea
Ty,
who I think it's going to be.
Here's the question then. Do we get a transfer?
I don't think
one
so.
of those two transfer?
Oh, possibly. But this is exactly why I don't think there's going to be anything named until fall.
Yeah.
And that's one of the unfortunate things. Look, the only coach I've ever seen, I mean, I'm not saying he's the only one. He's just the only one I can think of. And hats off to him at Baylor, Dave Aranda, last year. He just straight up said during spring, hey, you lost the job. And that was uncommon because usually your coaches hold the, close to the vest because they don't want their quarterbacks to transfer. So I think Ty Simpson could start. Look, he apparently had a really good camp, especially before the K-State game. Mm-hmm. It's just I'm really interested to see how this offense with Tommy Rees goes. I'm very excited for that. Mm-hmm. Really, really excited to see that.
But I mean, he's dealt with, in my opinion, I think he's dealt with a quarterback like Milroe far longer than he's dealt with somebody like Ty Simpson, and that's just by default because he's had guys that, I mean, like the one of those Notre Dame quarterbacks,
Drew Pine.
He was just mobile. I mean, that's pretty much all he really was. Intermediate guy that was mobile.
I don't mean to. Y'all know me. I try not to down anybody. I try and always look at it the half, glass half full type thing. Like this might be a bad situation, but here's the light at the end of it. Mm-hmm. To put it lightly, Notre Dame quarterback play was bad.
Oh yeah. And it's been bad for a while. It's been bad for a while.
I mean, like perplexingly.
No,
bad.
It's been bad. Yeah,
it's been bad for a while.
Yeah, they haven't had anything worth anything.
You guys aren't Ian Book guys.
I mean, he's technically the last one that seemed competent. I didn't think he was that good in college.
He was who was that? He's a broke Brady Quinn.
The way you asked that.
He's a broke Brady Quinn.
It's probably the last one they've had.
Not an Ian Book.
That's crazy. So honestly, folks, real answer, here, true freshman, none. None. Nico
Yeah.
maybe by the end of the season. Nico maybe. It's a redshirt freshman, Ty Simpson, or maybe Walker Howard at Ole Miss.
That's going to
Possibly.
be tough.
It's so
Spencer
much.
Sanders and Jackson Dart.
Yeah, but I mean, why would you bring in all those guys when you had Jackson Dart wasn't a horrible quarterback last year? Is Spencer better than Jackson Dart was last year? I mean,
Why in the world
yeah,
did Spencer Sanders transfer there?
yeah.
All
I think he saw a mark. I
We don't know
honestly
what
think
that
thought
means.
he saw a mark. He looked at that and was like, "Ooh, that's for me to take."
I mean,
don't
no.
know why.
That makes sense to me. Look,
he's
if you want to
confident.
say that makes sense to me, and I rock with that because that's a competitive mentality. I rock with that. But at the same time, my man, like you had a golden opportunity at several institutions that you could have done something with.
Yeah,
Fair.
be like a no kidding, true, legit starter.
Yeah.
Coming there day one, know it's your job. So interesting. Let's go to.
I want to say one last thing.
Yeah, go ahead, man.
I want to be to a point where my football team is as good enough as Ty's to where if we're playing Ian Book in a playoff game, he can laugh the way he just laughed because I know that's how Ty laughed when they got to play Ian Book in the college football playoffs. Like you're not even taking him seriously. I want my team to get to that level.
God, this is gonna sound pompous. Do you want to know the game where I was just like chuckling? The playoff game.
Please
The
tell
whole
me.
time. It was the Cincinnati one.
Oh yeah.
Right? And I'll tell you what made it even funnier is I've seen people afterwards be like, "Oh, look, Cincinnati played Bama as close as anybody that year," and I'm like, they ran the football all game because you stayed in a 3-3-5. Like, what do you mean? They just thoroughly spanked you. They just didn't show their hand. I was so just perplexed watching that game. I was just
game plan.
now.
Took it
Granted, their
fun.
corners were awesome, unbelievable, unbelievable.
Defensive rookie of the year. That tells
Yeah,
you
it
that
was.
they
Yeah, and
had
Kobe
some-
Bryant was Thor
Yeah,
that year.
but they didn't have to test them. They just ran the ball all.
Saban ain't stupid.
You weren't scared of Desmond Ritter, Ty?
That's really getting game checks now. He was the Falcons, ain't he?
He's officially
a
the
starter
starting
now.
quarterback
Yeah,
of the Atlanta
starter.
Falcons.
He's the starter now. I guess.
Officially.
Hey,
Because they ain't
he's
got
a
no other
monster.
quarterbacks.
He's a monster. Don't get me wrong, but like, I just the offense is one thing, but if you're in a 3-3-5 the whole time against Alabama and they're just looking at you and running with their 6'2", 220-pound running back down your throat all game, I'm comfortable.
I remember the pod because Ty said three things about the game. He said, one, all of the things Bryce has to do, blah, 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 because of Bill O'Brien. Then he said, I think you just run the ball. And he said, so, man, this Georgia game is going to be really interesting.
Hey, guys, hey, Chris. So what Ty is saying is there's some levels to this shit, right?
Yeah.
and Bama's here, and although Cincy had a really good quarterback, there's still levels to this.
Styles make fights, just like in boxing, MMA, and you're not going to run against a power run team running a 3-3-5 when you're already outmanned, right?
Exactly.
From a talent perspective.
My man Jance is in the comments and said he felt that way about Connor Cook. Said he went and enjoyed his New Year's. Didn't even worry about that
you remember Derrick Henry throwing Shalik Calhoun like a child?
Yes.
Tossing him.
Yes.
My wife turned that game off, actually. She turned it off.
Bama didn't blitz the whole game. And
this is boring. That's what my wife told me. It was boring. We're going to win the game. I was like, oh, God, here we go. All right. Last topic, folks. Last topic today. Talking about levels to this. We're going to talk about the best OCs in the SEC. There's levels to this, folks. Here we go. When we're looking at the best OCs in college football, we got just a few guys here. Let's take a look from the SEC. You got Denbrook from LSU, Levy from OU, future SEC, and Tommy Rees from Alabama. Tommy Rees, a top 10 offensive coordinator in college football. Ty, what you think about that, man?
Yeah, look, I think there's going to be a lot of pushback because you look at the Notre Dame offenses, and like I said, I'm not naive to what Notre Dame's offenses didn't do. I mean, let's call a spade, but here's what I will say. I think it's very obvious when you turn on the film that Tommy Rees is a creative guy. I'm intrigued, right? I'm certainly intrigued. But I saw some people like, well, what did he do at Notre Dame? And yeah, I mean, it is what it is. You know, the Notre Dame offenses didn't have anything, but I really think that is a you look at the quarterback play for Notre Dame and it was abysmal. I mean, they couldn't hit a 5-yard out. It was painful.
It wasn't good.
I kind of feel like grades and all the rest of that stuff, the academic part of it kind of limited them. Not going to say that you can't find a 5-star intelligent kid. I mean, hell, look at what Princeton's doing, what Princeton did in the NCAA tournament, you know. But my whole thing is just Notre Dame has some things that hold them back regardless. And it's not NIL, it's not the name on the jersey, any of that. They just have some things built within their university that just holds them back as far as football wise, especially now that the powers that be have spread, you know. Nobody's saying, you know, oh my God, I got to go to Notre Dame, or I got to go to Miami. Like, you can spread the wealth has been spread out, you know. So I just think that he's had to deal with what he's been given. You know, he hasn't really the quarterbacks haven't really panned out, and he's got some high star quarterbacks there, just haven't panned out. And then just some of the skill players and whatnot. I mean, running backs. We could go all day about the running backs, but you know, they had a couple of tight ends here and there, but they just never really had that wide receiver that I was just like, oh my God, he's a threat.
Interesting.
So I think that he's low. I think they're giving him a little bit of a boost because obviously the Alabama logo is behind him now. But I also think that he does deserve some respect because even though Notre Dame does a Notre Dame thing and they will go out there and play a hell of a game against Ohio State and then go out there against McNeese State and play like straight ass, he still is able to garner or to field an offense that is decent enough to help them win games.
Yeah,
and win a bunch of games.
So I wanted to chime in real quick. There's a couple of things that jumped out to me on this list. First and foremost, you don't see any of the head coaches that are really OCs also. Yeah. So you don't see any of those people. So your Lincoln Rileys of the world, the Sarkisians of the world, they're not populating on this list, which I thought was quite interesting that they didn't take that in consideration. I guess the PFF who made this list was only going off of titles. Didn't see Sean Lewis over there at Colorado on there, even though he just came back, you know, from being a head coach. Figured he'd be on this list. But the Tommy Rees one jumped out to me that he got thrown in this list this early, especially after the how the performance was in Notre Dame, which tells me that those that evaluate at the NFL level look at him and his schemes and his offenses and say, oh, his biggest problem was personnel. It really wasn't him. And which, Ty, I see why you are pretty excited about him coming to Alabama, because that really speaks well of him. It really tells you that, yeah, it's probably schematically he's creative. Does a great job of getting people open. He didn't have the dudes to do it. And sometimes you need dudes to make things work. And that jumped out to me when I saw that list. And I was like, you know what? I definitely want to get Ty's thought on it, as well as everybody else's, on the fact that Tommy Rees made it in the top 10 nationally as far as the top OCs.
I think it's definitely some projection to it. No doubt. I think, Chris, you hit the nail on the head. I think they're taking into account the talent he'll have at Alabama, right? I'm not naive to that. What I will say is this. I think Corporate Duck makes a great point. Brian Kelly tried to get him to go to LSU whenever Brian Kelly left Notre Dame. He wanted him to come with him, and Rees ended up staying a year, ended up going to Alabama. And two, he did coach that offense to a college football playoff game. They got slaughtered, but they made it to the dance, right? And so look,
I book drafted, Ty.
I know. No, look, that's why I said I'm really excited when I started watching the Notre Dame film, and like I was looking at this, I was like, there's some creative stuff here, but I completely understand if you looked at that, Jay, and you were like, Tommy Rees at 10. What if you were to look at Notre Dame's numbers, they're not great. And I'm not naive to that. No doubt about it.
What jumped out to me was the fact that he was there. I'm just like, that's saying some good stuff about him.
Yeah. I agree. I agree with that. But
that jumped out to me. I was like, interesting. So your excitement is warranted is kind of my thought with everything.
One more thing. There's nothing about that LSU offense that scares me, just to be real with you. I think that defensively they should be held this year for some people, but just offensively they don't really scare me. I don't think that offense is as explosive as you would think. So that guy coming in, now that OC coming in at number 5, that does kind of surprise me. But at the same time, I mean, they had a hell of a season to finish, but still in my mind, I don't. It's not as explosive to me as I guess some people would think.
Brother Chris, they dropped damn near 80 points in the bowl game.
I'm not worried about them in Purdue. Stop.
That's explosive, brother.
Steven. Stop.
Scandal.
Did you see what happened when they had Nussmeier come in that game against Georgia?
Yeah, Nussmeier. Are we talking about Nussmeier again?
Nussmeier should be talked about because we ain't sure it's Jaden Daniels' show anymore, bro.
Well, did y'all, for everybody in chat, go back, watch the LSU Georgia game. And granted, Georgia did not prepare for Nussmeier. So I do want to give that little caveat when people are watching this. And they're polar opposites, right? Jaden, you want to keep him in the pocket, whereas Nussmeier, please, dear God, get him out the pocket. Do not let him stand there. But great stuff from a quarterback coming in against Georgia. So yeah, I'm excited for LSU. Unfortunately, I mean, I think they have a really bright future ahead of them, and possibly one of the most talented people on that team didn't play last year because of a knee injury. Mason Smith, defensive line.
Exactly.
I would like to add with the Nussmeier performance against Georgia, that's what led me to pick Ohio State and feel confident with them covering, because I saw opening for CJ Stroud in that same regard, to sit back there and be able to really find some opportunities. And Nussmeier was the one that kind of exploited some of those things.
That makes sense. And if Marvin Harrison Jr. didn't get hurt, there's a good chance.
Hey, Nick, I just got a question for the panel. Last question, okay?
Yeah.
Who wins the Auburn Texas quarterback battle? You said what?
Oh, it's not about Texas. Oh, wow.
Oh, trust me, Texas is first thing from my mind. Okay, y'all are mediocre. Nobody cares about that. We're talking football. But hey, when we're talking about Auburn, though,
get out of here.
Who is I mean, obviously, this article that I'm reading right now says many Auburn fans hope the answer is not TJ Finley, but I've already said I think Rocky Ashford, but that would be my pick. I mean, I like what I saw from Nicky. I think he has a lot of heart. I don't know if heart translates to wins this year, but at the same time, I mean, Hugh Freeze has got it done down there at Liberty, so I put nothing past him.
It's heart, though. It's not Captain Planet, brother. It's SEC football.
Right.
I think it's got to be Robbie. I think it has to be, man. TJ. I mean, we've seen the TJ show now. What's this? His 5th year now coming up?
Feels like it. He's a junior technically, but yes, feels like
he took Bama to the max, though.
I mean, that's one game.
It's the only game that matters. I mean, that's why Jimbo Fisher has a job.
But I'm talking about.
Does that count? Does that game count? He completed like 8 passes.
I just, yeah, man.
TJ had them on the ropes.
Yeah, I'm not look. We've seen the TJ Finley show. We've seen 5 years of it. He is what he is. He is who we thought he was. Right? That's what Green said. Right? So it is what it is, man.
Mm-hmm.
It's got to be right.
Watch him turn into 06 Jamarcus Russell this year, and we just we bring out the receipts.
We're on a Twitter montage.
Yo. Oh my God, that's
I wanted to write me off, but I didn't write back, guys.
He could be like last season Joe Burrow.
They tried to write me off.
Quarterback to his last year. But yeah, I don't think he has that arm talent. So it is
Return to send.
Return
God.
This dude's bringing up all the podcast episodes. You said I was
I think Jance says he already knows who the quarterback one for Auburn is.
Who is it, Jance? Spill the beans.
He says it's Chris. He says part-time lawyer and Auburn QB.
I go out there and get the job done. I got more than heart. I got wins. I got a couple of wins. I got some big games left in me. I still got some eligibility left too. So I mean,
he's got
hey,
a bad back waiting to happen right there. That's all you want.
Chris is staring at the
Joint pain.
distance, and he says, "I bet I could throw a mountain or a football clear over those mountains."
Oh yeah, Uncle Rico over here.
I will say one last thing on Auburn. They could be the team that we'll see how Hugh evaluates spring ball and when they finish. They could probably be the team where they hit the portal for another quarterback after the spring.
Spencer Sanders is right there.
Just jump back in.
Grad transfer.
I think he's a grad transfer.
You can go as often as you want.
That was the crazy thing about it.
Yeah,
that was the crazy thing about it.
He was anytime he wants.
The word on the street was Spencer Sanders was a silent commit to Auburn. Where they held that, how that went left, I have no idea.
Oh,
it was clear cut. Go to Auburn and be the starter.
I agree with Chris on that.
Man. Oh yeah, I would have too. That makes
probably
sense. The best situation.
It made the most sense.
It did make the most sense. Damn it, Hayes gonna have to do like a whole nother edit then.
Hold up. Highlight my guy RJ's comment. RJ played in the SEC. He said Auburn football, man. I remember when we played against Cam in 10. That was a crazy game. Wish they would have got man. I try and forget the whole Cam Newton Auburn saga. That he was just running.
He was
shit through the SEC. He was, and I don't know if y'all remember that game against. Yeah, that 2010, and Bama had them in the first half. I mean, Bama was beating them handedly. And he just came back. He just came back. It was something crazy like that.
I think you were up 21-0.
He just came back. Unbelievable.
It was Cam after that, the Cam show.
Yeah, unbelievable.
Anyway,
but I just don't trust Auburn. You fired you attempted to launch a coup against a coach for a rumor, and then hired a coach that has been proven to do the thing the other coach you started a rumor for.
But the coach who was proven to do that,
he looks like Clowney.
He's also a proven winner. That's the problem.
RJ says Cam is bigger than we think. He looks like Clowney. I bet.
I would not doubt it. I've heard that Cam is ginormous human being.
It'd be fun to get RJ on here. He played in the SEC. That'd be a ton of fun.
All right, cool. We gotta get him on. All right, where we at, folks? Folks, man, look, it's been 90 minutes. Oh, well, almost 90 minutes. So we've gone through everything. Auburn by 40.
No. Show him the back. Chris,
let me see the back of the shirt.
He's been trolling like crazy. I saw Ty cry in 2013.
40.
Remember the kick 6.
Who made that shirt, Chris? That's something else.
Very nasty shirt.
Ty will be wearing this after the Iron Bowl this year.
I will burn it after the Iron Bowl this year.
We've already.
I swear to God, y'all will tune into my stream and it will be like a medieval seance. I will be in a robe. Candles will be lit. There will be like the whole in the background. It's gonna be a whole
set up and just stream it directly from there. Be like, here,
come
guys,
in with the incense.
Oh man, Chris brought the shirt. It's always gifts for Chris.
That's ridiculous.
Always trolling.
All right, folks, it's 9:30 my time, man. We just did 90 minutes. Man,
we're not going another 90?
No, not another 90, man.
He made it 90 minutes without talking about Texas. God is good.
Oh, get out of here. Here we go again. Here we go. You little pop.
Who brought it up?
Yeah, look who brought it up. Huh, Steven? Look who brought it up.
I just say it.
All right.
Well, that train's never late, Nino.
It's never late. Well, hey, we're going to go around the room. Nick Battle, Nino's Corner. Find me everywhere, Nino's Corner, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter. Jay, how about you, man?
Jay Smith, Unfair Sports. Find me, everywhere. Social media, YouTube, all that jazz. Love hanging out with these chaps. This was a great time as usual.
Steve here, Fanatic Perspective. Find me on YouTube, Fanatic Perspective, all the socials, IG, Twitter. Just dropped a Rodney Terry analysis video today, but excited to be here with my SEC brethren.
Piggyback off of that, great hire by Texas. You guys did the right thing. He's going to be a damn good coach for you guys. If you guys didn't take him, then we were going to definitely have some conversations.
You already out on Porter? You out on Porter, bro?
You're not going to get what you want from me. Anyways, you guys can find me at the Horns Down Pod, the Horns Down Podcast on. You know where I'm at. Horns Down Pod, trust me. Hey, look, a lot of content about to come. Got some things planned for Nick, but
God, I thought it was going to be me again. I'm just glad it's not me again.
No, Ty, I'm done with you. I'm done with you, Ty.
Thank God. Thank God. Yeah, Ty with Around the Table Sports. You just know constant college football content. I'm a bit like a squirrel, where these guys right here are just feeding my unhealthy addictions. So thanks for being enablers.
And like Steven said, man, hit that like button. And we out, folks. Deuces.
Now the spinning wheel.